The talk of the county, Radio Nottingham.
Now we've two more guests to meet from Cinderella at the Theatre Royal. So far I've talked to Peter Baldwin, he plays Baron Hardup, and to Bradley Walsh, who's Buttons. Today we get a chance to catch up with the villains of the piece, so we're going to give a hiss and a boo welcome to Nigel Ellacott and to Peter Robbins, the ugly sisters, Sharon and Tracy. Welcome to you both.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us here.
And it must be great to do a job where you can go on stage and get booed for it.
Actually, do you know, that is the one thing we live for. Isn't it odd? No, it's the only job in the theatre where you're just hoping the kids are going to boo you. I don't think there's any other part, really, that you can think of where you think, oh, they didn't boo tonight. I couldn't have been very good. That is what we pray for.
We were just recently doing a programme called Pantolam, which was for Channel 4, and in one of the sequences, Paul Elliott's telling Britt Ekland, isn't he, that the more they boo, the more she'll get paid. So we hope he's listening.
Yes, I hope he listens to that.
I'm sure. That was a fabulous series on Channel 4, which sort of took us through the mechanics of putting a pantomime together. It must have felt very exposed to you, though, having the cameras there while you were doing the rehearsals.
It's odd, because that's the part of it that you hope nobody sees, really, because that's when you're at the most vulnerable, when you're rehearsing and when you're putting the thing together. And it's quite a stressful thing to do, because we have a week and a half to put the whole pantomime together. So sometimes you'll get a company that's worked together before. We were very lucky that year, because we'd all been at Woking, we'd all been at Birmingham, and so we knew each other. But sometimes you have a company that have just been put together that week, and it can be a bit stressful. So we were a bit worried sometimes about thinking, oh dear, you know, I hope you'll...
What was interesting was the programme Pantoland, it started following Peter and myself around from August until they finished at the beginning of January, didn't they? And it's so strange, because you're sort of being followed by a camera crew around doing all the Christmas things, and it's sweltering. It was really
hot,
roasting the day that we were doing scenes in the wig factory. And, you know, we have to start Christmas with us starts about May. We start thinking about it.
And we were doing a schools tour, going around. We came to Nottingham, we did it at the theatre, and we went all around the country promoting pantomime, where we go to schools, we tell the children all about how pantomime works and what we do in pantomime and the traditions
of it.
Which is fascinating, again, because it's lovely to see children have a sort of natural reaction to boo and hiss. Nobody's told them to do it. They haven't learnt it from anything. But as soon as we come on, they'll boo, or, you know, if they're immediately go into the, oh yes you did, oh no you didn't.
And it's behind you.
And it's behind you.
It seems to be passed down through the generations, I don't know how.
It must be genetic.
It's in the blood, I'm sure.
Yes, I'm sure.
It's the first bit of theatre, real theatre, that all of us go and see.
That's right, yeah.
That's why, yes, the roadshow we do, the pantomime roadshow, we think it's so important, because if you can get the children in at that age, you've got the audience of the future. If they don't go into the theatre, perhaps they might just get on with their Game Boys and their video games and all those insular things that mean they don't ever get that sharing experience. It's to do with sharing. And it's the mass feeling, isn't it, of being in a theatre.
That's right, and it's a wonderful thing to see everybody's faces, all the kids' faces, and they all interact with each other as well. So instead of watching the television by themselves, looking at the Teletubbies or something, they can watch something and share it together, which is important.
I do think the Teletubbies are marvellous, though.
Well, we love the Teletubbies, actually. They're our favourite.
Yes. You have a Teletubby costume, perhaps, next year?
Oh, no,
we're not allowed.
Copyright.
We're not allowed to do it, unfortunately. We would
It'd be
love
lovely,
to.
though, wouldn't it?
I mean, I've got the bulk for a Teletubby, so...
And we do have the handbag for Tinky Winky.
Oh, that's true, yes, yeah. You were telling me before we started this conversation on air that last night's audience was particularly good.
Oh, we had a fabulous audience last night. It's when you're doing a long run of a pantomime, we're doing twice daily every day at the Theatre Royal Nottingham. Tickets are available at the box office. Please ring. Sometimes you don't get bored with it, because you can never be bored when you're doing a live show, because things always happen all the time to keep you on your toes. But sometimes you can get a teensy-weensy bit complacent. But yesterday the audience took off, and when that happens, you take off with them. It's like being on a roller coaster.
We can usually tell within about, I suppose, a minute of our first entrance. You've weighed up the audience, you've gauged them, And yesterday they were superb. But on the whole, they're absolutely marvellous.
The
at
audiences
Nottingham.
here have been brilliant. I mean, there is a maxim that there's no such thing as a bad audience. But us being actors, of course, you always complain. You come off and say, "Oh, what a bit dreadful tonight." The fact is that you've probably blown it.
Yes,
know.
you never think it was you. Oh, it couldn't possibly
Couldn't be us.
Yeah.
No.
No, it's marvellous.
But no, the audiences here on the whole have been wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
And it was such a joy when we were going around the schools of Nottingham earlier, you know, to sort of, we were going to different, we had the schools into the theatre here, in
Yes,
fact,
yeah.
brought them in, and to suss out our audience before we arrived here for pantomime.
The great thing about that as well is that we're quite lucky because we can try out gags, you see, on the kids to see what gets laughs and what doesn't. Whereas...
And of course the kids give us gags.
Yes, exactly. I mean, some of them we couldn't dare repeat, but...
We're not going to those in our case. Does it change your performance though when the audience is really with you? Does it affect you? Do you feel you play better in yourself?
It's to do with timing, really. When the audience is really with you and the laugh is bigger, your timing changes so that you can accommodate them. When they're not, for example, if they're not a very big audience, or if perhaps is the ratio of children to adults can change how you time something as well. It's all to do with just timing it so that you don't tread over the precious thing to us, the jewels, which are the laughs, that you don't crush them.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
The two of you have been doing this. You've been Ugly Sister and Cinderella for years now. How did the two of you come together?
Well, funny enough, we were actually put together on a lager advert at Shepperton Studios. We were both filming.
Neither of us drink lager, by the way.
We were doing this commercial at Shepperton, and we have a mutual agent. Nigel's brother runs a theatre in Ilford in Essex, and they were doing Cinderella, and they were looking for Ugly Sisters. And we were chatting about it and talking about it and thinking, who do we know that could do it, you know, and all the rest of it. And then we think, why don't we do it ourselves? You know, we'll have a go.
After the first year, we just decided there was something quite nice about it, and we looked out, and there was this gap in the market. There were not very many. When I was a kid, I can remember all the Ugly Sisters that ever came to Swansea, to the pantomime that I lived in. My brother was running the theatre there, so I lived in the pantomime. They were always two people who came with everything. They had their own costumes, their own props, and we thought, well, let's do the same.
And the other good thing is that not being television stars, we're just sort of ordinary jobbing actors. We thought, well, the only way that we're going to get gainful employment and eat at Christmas is to specialise. So that's what we've done. We specialised in this particular field. We bring everything. Our own costumes, our own scenery in some cases.
And our own routines.
Yeah.
Your own gags. You've developed those together over the years.
That's right, yeah.
And the costumes are terrific, and this is really where you come in, Nigel, isn't it? Because you actually sort of design all these yourself.
Yes, I mean, I've been designing costumes over the years for different shows, but I wouldn't really like to wear somebody else's designs. I mean, I wouldn't mind, but we know what works for us.
Yeah, it's a question of if you're asked to come on and do a particular scene and you've been lumbered with something that is just impossible to walk around in, then, you know, then you're in trouble. But the beauty of having our own costumes and having Nigel design them is that we know what we can do in them and what laughs we can get out of them. For instance, we got a very quick change at the beginning of the show where we come on as a hat and a shoe, and that gets a huge laugh in this particular show.
And also, you see,
You went
Doesn't that be strange?
They got a terrific laugh the night I was there anyway.
where was I that night? The terrific thing about it too, the magic of it, is when our costumes and the skill of the theatre come together, because at Nottingham we're so lucky. We have two absolutely superb ladies who help
Michelle and
us.
Dawn.
Michelle and Dawn, they help us in and out of the costumes. The best I have ever encountered.
Marvellous.
And they can make us do those changes in what should be a 45-second change, can now be done in 25 seconds.
That's incredible.
It's their skill. They are the best.
You see, what the other thing we have to remember is that it's not just us up there. There's all the crew, there's everybody else that make the pantomime work. And here at Nottingham, you're so lucky because you've got probably the best crew we've ever worked with.
Now that was interesting. When we came here to do the road show, normally we take our show about pantomime to the schools. We did it in the theatre here, and we were able to let the kids see how the scenery changed. Instead of just talking about it, we actually got the crew involved, and it was wonderful for them as well as us, I think, to see the reaction of the kids, because normally they're just changing the scenery and but the kids were fascinated to see it all happen, and the question and answer session was so revealing.
That's right, and we have the Theatre Royal stage manager, Mac, who came on, and we got him to judge the singing competition, you see, and he loved that. He thought that was good.
Yeah, I mean, it was all round. It was a very, very interesting experience.
Yeah. You took your new double act on to telly recently, Ready Steady Cook as well.
Oh, that's right. Well, we did the pantomime with Fern Britton one year, and as a sort of laugh, they thought they'd do a Christmas special. So we did a Ready Steady Cook as Sharon and Tracy, and we turned up. And actually, the butterscotch sauce I made was very good.
It was very nice. I mean, you're talking to somebody here whose idea of cooking is just to press the button on the microwave.
Yeah.
But it was very interesting.
But the weird thing is that you're given 20 minutes to cook this meal. And it really is a panic, isn't it? Suddenly.
Is it really 20 minutes?
it's
Is it
real,
what we see on screen, what you actually do in
That
the
is
studio?
It's absolutely for real. There's no stopping and starting, no trickery involved or anything. You're given 20 minutes to prepare a meal, and by God, you have to move. I mean,
And you won.
well, yes, my butterscotch sauce was a tour de force,
It
if I
was,
say
yeah.
it
This is a
myself.
deep wound, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It has always remained with me. Yeah, yeah, painful.
Did you have to get the ingredients yourselves, or did they suggest what you bring along with you?
They sort of suggested what
Yeah.
you might like to bring along,
And
but
then
I mean,
you can just sort of raid your local supermarket and provide.
Yes, yeah.
You had some sort of.
I had
What
my
was it?
quail. I had my
A
baby
quail, was
quail.
it? Oh.
Yes, my baby quail.
Very
£2.75.
Peter is very fond of his food.
I am very fond, as you can tell. I'm squeezed into this table here.
Well, it's what makes you got such wonderful dames, because there is that physical contrast between the two of
Exactly,
you on
yes.
stage as well. Yeah. You're Sharon and Tracy in this production. That I guess is because of Birds of a Feather. What other names have you employed over the years?
We tend to go to go with the flow of the tide, don't we?
Yes.
We've been things like Crystal and Alexis when they were famous.
Many years ago, we were Hydrophobia and Hysteria,
Yes,
which
is
we
what are.
hated because we could never remember our own names, let alone anybody else's.
But it's a sad thing that's what we are now in the dressing room, isn't it? Hydrophobia and hysteria.
Yes, in real life. But no, they've always had very odd names, haven't they?
Yes,
The Ugly Sisters.
yes. Yeah, Daisy and Buttercup was sort of, I suppose, the traditional name for the Ugly Sisters. But
So what's next after the panto's over? But presumably a reasonably long rest before the next thing.
well, Harriet Harman and I are going to do a little conference together. I don't know.
We hope not too long.
We hope
We
not
have
too
we
long.
have some projects lined up for us in Birmingham, which is great fun, which we'll be doing, and then hopefully Peter may be dabbling in one of his other arts.
Well, I tend to work for the Muppets as well, you see. So if we're doing another Muppet movie this year at Shepperton, I think it's Muppet Star Trek we're doing this year, which will be very exciting.
There's an exclusive.
An exclusive,
Mind-boggling.
yes.
I've not heard
I
that
know.
before. No.
Don't tell anybody,
Which bit of the Muppets are you?
Well, it depends, really. When you get there, there's a sort of mad scrabble. All the Americans come over, and they're marvellous people, and they all do the main characters. And we're left with the also-rans. So it's a sort of scrabble as to who can stick their hand in what, really. And that's sort of how it works out.
Do you know what's also very exciting? Peter and I did for the first. I've always been a great fan of music hall, and Peter has never done a music hall. So last year I persuaded him to actually come on, do a music hall. You can do it. You'll love it.
He made me do a turn.
Yeah, a turn. Peter has never been a turn before, and we had great fun. Didn't we?
We did. I had to do a sort of cod Shakespearean turn, which was great fun. Of course, my trousers fall down in the end, and you know.
We loved it, and in fact we're both very excited at the moment because today is a very special opening for Nottingham.
Special day today for Nottingham.
Very
tell us
special.
more.
Well, the Malt Cross Music Hall actually opens this morning. I think it opened about an hour ago, which is an authentic music hall in the very heart of Nottingham, which has been refurbished and completely restored, and it's got its grand opening. Unfortunately, we can't go to the big opening tonight when the first act will be taking place because we have to do our show. But along with Peter Baldwin from the production, because Peter is also a great
Always
fan
an
of
expert on musical,
expert.
yes.
We hope to go and have a good visit there tomorrow. But we've looked at the building, and it is wonderful. It is a treasure for Nottingham.
Terrific place. You have to come back and bring a show here later in the year. That would be fun.
Yes,
That would be good.
That would be nice.
Terrific. Well, good luck with the current show with Cinderella
Thank you.
and
Thank you
everything
very
else that you do in 1998. And Nigel and Peter, thanks for coming in and for talking this afternoon.
Thank you indeed.
Pleasure. Bye.
The talk of the county.